Well, good morning, friends. My name's Pastor Stretch, and I have one of the cooler jobs you know of, because I get to take a look at God's Word and open it up, and then we just get to dive in together. Today, I want you to look at a book called Exodus. It's right near the beginning. You get to Genesis, you're right in the neighborhood. Genesis, Exodus, chapter 3. Let's take a look. Exodus chapter 3, and we find a guy named Moses, who was just a shepherd at this point. Exodus 3 says, "Now Moses is tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law. He's a priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the name of the mountain of God. And there the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it didn't burn up. So Moses thought, I'm going to go over and see this strange sight, why the bush doesn't burn up. Verse 4, when the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Verse 5, God says, don't come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. And then the Lord said, I've indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I'm concerned about their suffering. You know, we just sang our prayer, would you pull me a little closer, Lord? And here's the Lord answering that prayer. I'm hearing your suffering and your cries. So what I want to do is pull my people a little closer. I want to take you a little deeper. Verse 8. So I've come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land and into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I've seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them and abusing them. Verse 10, so now Moses, go. I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Israel, out of Egypt, so they can go back to their land. Verse 11, but Moses said to God, but who am I? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And God said this. In answer to Moses' question, who am I? God said, I will be with you. That's who you are. Who you are is you're the one who brings the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob with you. That's who you are. And this will be a sign to you that this is who has sent you. When you brought the people up out of Israel, you'll worship God right here on Horeb, the mountain on which you stand. Moses said to God, okay, so suppose I go to the Israelites and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask, well, what's his name? Then what should I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent you. God also said to Moses, so say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever. The name you will call me from generation to generation. Many of you will notice we're wearing these stickers today. You know why? Because they look good. they really make your outfit just complete. They're the perfect accessory, aren't they? No, we're wearing them because names are important. Did you ever go up to somebody and realize they don't remember your name? Did you ever know that? And you're trying to dig for, like, do you remember me? You know me? And that way you sort of judge, like, how close are we? If you don't know my name, you probably don't know me very well. Did you ever try to fake it? I know people who fake it all the time. They're like, hey, buddy. My name's not Buddy. Hey, I knew a guy, he called everybody Guy. Hey, Guy. Hey, Guy. My name's not Guy. Who names their kid Guy? Are there any guys in the room? It's a strange name, right? What's your sister's name? Gal. It's weird. But names are really important. Well, not so much in America. Like, I go to other countries and they're like, so what does your name mean? I'm like, nothing. I'm American. We didn't really do that. Like, that's not really a thing for us. If I threw out some names, you would know, some of our older Nazarenes on this campus, you would know the name Bertha. That name means something to you, right? A former dean of students, they named the ladies' dorm Monroe after her. If I threw out the name Boone, you might know what that is, right? Who comes to mind? Denise, right? The cooler Boone, right? Clearly. It's our president and his wife. If I threw out the name Gronk, you know, a lot of things come to mind when you hear that name, right? If I throw out the name Brady, he's the greatest of all time. There's 5 rings. I mean, it's ridiculous. Debate's over. That all comes to mind, right? God's name, when tossed about, why don't we know more about God's name? Because names are important. They indicate a reputation, right? When you know somebody's name, it means something. If you don't know their name, it indicates a lack of relationship, right? When I was dating Jill for the first year, about halfway through freshman year, I started dating Jill here. And her family lived close by, so I would go and visit sometimes. And every time, Jill's mom found a new version of my name. She couldn't quite remember. She knew there was a nickname attached to it, and sometimes she'd greet me, and she got it wrong 100% of the time. But she never got it wrong the same way. So I couldn't wait to show up at Vassal Street and find out what the new remix version was going to be. Hey, string, hi. Oh, hey, look, everybody, Stick is here. Oh, Sticky, hi. Smiley, is it Smiley? It's Smiley. Hey, Skippy, hi, Skippy. Hey, Charlie, come down, Skip's here. My name's not String. What? It's not even close. Well, it's sort of close. You know, I found that names are tough when I became a parent. The nurse came in the room. She had all these official documents, birth certificates for another full human being. And they said, okay, what's her name? And I was like, I don't know. What are people going to call her? I'm not sure what she looks like just yet. She's wrinkly and sort of purple and mucusy. I don't know what to call that. I'm glad that I didn't call her what she looked like at the time, because that would have been great, right? But there was more potential for that. My second born, Kayla, was Carly for 2 days in Weymouth. And as we were leaving, the lady said, okay, you need to sign the birth certificate. And Jill went like this, okay. I can't. I don't like the name Carly now. And she doesn't look like a Carly. What do I do? Postpartum set in within the first 24 hours in our house. She didn't even like the first decision we made with this one. I go, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? She goes, I don't know. Pick something prettier. I'm like, okay. And the nurse goes, Kayla? And we go, okay, sure. Kayla, your name's so meaningful. When you travel abroad, all the other cultures will be like, what does your name mean? You'll be like, I don't know, ask the nurse. You're from a long line of that, though, because when I was born, and this is in the day before you could tell what you were having, a boy or a girl, you just had to be surprised. And my mom was so excited to have a girl because she had always wanted to name a girl Stephanie. Any Stephanies in the room? Oh, my mom loves you. Thinks you're the greatest, the prettiest name ever. She'd name all her dolls Stephanie. She would name her imaginary friend Stephanie. So when she had her firstborn and it was a girl, she was so happy. And my dad stepped in and went, I'm going to name her Anne Marie after my mom. She died when I was 12, so. And my mom was like, oh, well, yeah, that's sort of a trump card. Okay, we'll name her Anne Marie after your dead mom, sure. But the next girl we have is going to be Stephanie. I know it. It's going to be Stephanie. And I was born, and the nurse said, hey, congratulations, you have a boy. And my mom literally cried. And her first words to me were, oh, no, I didn't, oh, no. And the nurse said, what's wrong? She goes, I don't have a boy name. I don't think she said the words, I didn't want a boy, but we know it was true. And if you're watching, you know it's true. You know it. And the nurse said, well, Stephanie is a pretty name. You know, the boy version of that is Stephen. My mom went, fine. And they put it down, and that's my name. You know what it means? Royal, crown, king. It's funny that it makes you laugh. It's really funny. Because it makes me laugh too. First of all, it doesn't mean that much to me because nobody calls me that. Except my mother, and she says it begrudgingly every time. I'm sure she slips in a Stephanie once in a while. Doesn't mean that much to me. My last name, Dean, means very little. My father was born Kenneth Ronald DePalanacola. There's a lot of vowels in that name. And as his father came to America, was trying to get a job as a newspaper reporter, and they very bluntly said in the first interview that he had, you know, the reputation of your people, you Italians, is, well, you know, it's just that your name has a lot of, it's a lot of, you know. And they didn't want to finish all the words. My dad remembers that my grandfather got in the car and he heard that there was a newspaper reporter on the radio. And he said, this is Dick Dean signing off for the final time. He was retiring as a newspaper reporter in the Philadelphia area. And my dad said, well, maybe that's an American name that doesn't have all the baggage that they were indicating. And so we went back for an interview a week later and just had crossed out on his resume, Anthony Vito DePalanacola, and wrote Dick Dean. And he got the job. And now our family reunion has names all over the place. We have Nicolas. It was DePalanacola. Nobody kept that name. My grandfather, he earned a reputation for himself. And so my dad and his brothers and sister, they were the Dean boys and the Dean kids. And soon my dad said, we might as well just change our name. But it's not like the name has a legacy to it. Not much of a history there. My girls have said, let's go back to DePalanacola. And I said, if you can spell it, you can name it. But they never get it right. There's lots of letters in there. Our family reunion, Anthony DePalanacola married my grandmom, Anne Marie Sakazensky. So the Sakazenskys and the DePalanacolas get together, and the T-shirt is just a hot mess. It's like a word search. And our names, they're complicated. Here in America, we do this thing with names, and I have some Asian friends who say, when I say, well, what's your name? And they'll say, well, and they'll pause, and they'll say, Harry. I'll say, your name's not Harry. I bet it's not Harry. And then they'll tell me their name, and I'll go, oh. Well, Harry, I got to tell you, it's been fun hanging out because Asian names, they're hard for the English tongue to say sometimes. But here's what I've found is often my English, American, North American tongue, brain, and clock is a little too hasty and a little too busy to actually dig in and do the work of finding out someone's real name and what it means. And so names in Scripture sometimes with this American lens that I have, I just want to blow past it. They don't mean a lot to me. But that can be tricky because biblical names often mean a great deal. What's God's name? I think it's odd that really only this one place does God speak audibly about his name here in Exodus 3. But it's powerful. Exodus 3 tells us that Moses notices this burning bush off in the distance, and he watches it for a while and realizes, man, it doesn't burn up. Something's unusual, remarkable about this. And he goes over, and the Lord calls out to Moses and then gives him a mission. And Moses says, oh, I can't do that. And God says, of course you can. I am with you. I am in you. I am all that you need. Of course you can do this. And Moses says, but I don't even know your name. And God says this, I just told you. I am. I am holy, so kick off your shoes. The ground you're standing on is really holy because everywhere I go, it's holy, it's other-natured, it's divine, it's better, it's higher. Dr. Boone just stood here on Friday, and students, faculty, remember what he talked about? That not just an ordinary goat would do to bring your whatever leftover, dumb old sacrifice that wasn't going to cost you much and kind of slide that up to the altar and say, that's probably fine. I've checked the to-do list and done my business with God. No. God being so holy, so amazing, would deserve our very best in what we could give him. Students, you were challenged to come at your classes now in this semester with a fresh perspective to say, wait, I'm going to give that professor my very best. I'm not only going to just work through the syllabus and do what's required, but at the end of the syllabus, when the teacher says, there's recommended reading that would enhance your education, I'm going to actually dive in and do some of that, not only to impress the professor, but to take serious this charge of, I'm not here just to check off to-do lists. I'm actually here to become excellent in my field. Particularly those of you who are thinking about getting involved in ministry, do we need excellence in this field? People who are ready to go above and beyond, who don't want to just study for the test, but they actually want to learn and interpret the material so that they can give out healing and repair. God says, that's all in me. And I give all of that to you. I am. In the Old Testament, the word was Yahweh. In Hebrew and English, they don't mesh so well, and it can be difficult to figure out. In Greek, though, in the New Testament, the name means I am, and it's said like eme, like emphasis on the last syllable there. You could spell it lots of different ways. If you were to write it out, you could write it A-M-E-E, eme. I am. In the New Testament, you know what Jesus says when he uses these words? You know what he calls himself? The same thing his daddy called himself. I am the living water. I am the bread of life. I am the resurrection. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. I am the light of the world. I am the good shepherd. I am your life. And you know what's interesting? That root word, if you take that A-M-E-E, if you were to take that, in French, you know what that means? Friend. You move it over to Spanish, you know how it's said? Amigo. In English, we use words like amiable, which means friendly. And the very name of God is him drawing close. We were saying, so pull us a little closer and take us a little deeper. You notice Moses' first reaction when he realizes who's talking to him in the bush, right? What does he do? He hides his face. He wants to shrink back. And yet God's pulling him closer, and he's doing the same thing with us this morning. In a moment, we're going to come down here to the table. And you know what God invites you to the table? To your spot at the table. And says, I was expecting you. I've been calling you. Some of you, it might be your first time ever coming to the Lord's table. And you might want to hide your face or say, I don't know, I don't think I'm worthy. But I'm going to tell you this. We as Nazarenes, we understand this table to be an open table. You know what that means? If the Lord invites you, you come and you partake. If there's a longing inside of you that says, Lord, you could pull me a little closer and take me a little deeper, then there's a spot at the table for you. You know what my Kayla used to do? When she knew we were having guests over, she would always ask the same question, what's their names? And I didn't always understand, why is it so important for this 3-year-old to get these people's names? But then I realized that every time she'd go into her room and she'd pull out her stickers and her cards and her markers and her crayons, and she would make name tags and little cards. And when you came, you would know that we were expecting you, not because Jill was in the kitchen cooking, because anybody knows Jill's always in the kitchen cooking. It might not be for you. It might just because. But you would know that you were expected there, anticipated there, getting excited for, because you'd have a name tag there. And your name would be spelled wrong. Don't get it twisted. But you'd be able to recognize somewhere in there, they knew I was coming. Here's what I want to tell you about names. God knows your name. And he's been inviting you for quite some time. Some of you have been praying that prayer your whole life. Pull me a little closer. Take me a little deeper. Some of you have been walking that out, and you know we could give testimony after testimony of saying, oh, the Lord has been so faithful. Every time I've asked, he has said, yes. Let me take you a little deeper. Let me pull you a little closer. Some of you are newer onto the journey. And I want to let you know that God's been expecting you as well. He's been anticipating this, and he says, I am all you need. I am everything you've been looking for. I sat with a former addict this week, and he said it hit him finally. Sitting in an AA meeting not too long ago, where he said, everything I've been looking for at the parties, at the bar, at the tavern, in secret, in those back alleys, everything that I've been looking for, the new thrill, the next high, everything I've been looking for, God has filled in. And he's answered, and he's been everything I was looking for. God's satisfied. And he said, and it's better than all the rest. It's been better than the high, than the thrill, than the new. And I could hear God's name echoed in this conversation. I used to be so unsatisfied as a kid when I would hear God's name, and I'd say, well, what's God's name? And they'd say, well, I am. And maybe some of you were the same way. You'd ask the question, I am what? I want to know God's name. I am what? And all the adults in my life would look at me and go, Oh, you're going to find out. Oh, you are going to find out. And I think the beauty of this campus church is that we celebrate and have the opportunity to have fellowship older and younger. And ones who are a little further down the road can give testimony and can talk through this life experience of finding out who this great I am really is. Has he been provider, forgiver, friend, lover? Has he been redeemer? Has he been your escape? Has he been your protector? Has he been your joy? Has he been your challenge and your discipline? And many of you are nodding your head along with me saying, yep, and more. Yep, yes, most definitely. And in different seasons, he's taken on these different things. And God simply says, I am. And the root of that word we translate into, but I'm approachable, friendly, concerned for you, deeply rooted in love for you. I'm cheering for you. You know, amiable, go to thesaurus.com. It'll show you these kind of words: affectionate, engaging, friendly, good-natured, gracious, good-humored, full of love. And God's saying, in my name, I'm all that and more. The enemy whispers and says, oh, no, don't approach God too close. He'll see your sin. And God says, I know, of course I see your sin, and I want to forgive it. I want to wash it. I want to cleanse it so I can pull you a little closer and take you a little deeper. And I'll let you know my heart. And I want to know your heart. This is why we pray. You want to know how to get closer to the Lord? Start there, praying. But don't listen to the enemy when he says, no, you don't know how to pray. Because Jesus has taught us, and you know what he taught us? A prayer that was very much like a conversation that you could be having with somebody in the flesh. Prayer is simply this conversation between two people who love one another. And say, Father, would you pull me a little closer? I wouldn't mind if you took me a little deeper. I want to know your heart. And you know what the Lord will respond with? Absolutely. Let's get started. I guarantee you, he's going to pull out this book in your life, and he's going to say, let me pull you a little closer. Let me take you a little deeper. In here, you can know my heart. And this morning, he's inviting you to this table here. And you know what he's saying? I knew you were coming. I was excited to host this moment with us at our family table. Go find your seat. Go find your name tag. I've been waiting for us to have a moment to commune together. You know what's commanded about Sabbath? Not really church attendance. Rest is commanded about Sabbath. On your Sundays, you want to follow the command? Find some rest. College kids, when you call home late tonight and your mom says, I've been calling you all day, where were you? And you say, I was in bed. And she says, what? You slept the whole day away? You say, no. I'm just following God's command, Mom. I wanted him to pull me a little closer and take me a little deeper. And find some rest. Make sure your Sabbath is different than all your other days. That also means you probably should prepare a little bit for your Sabbath. Your Saturdays might have to get weighted with some extra homework so that you don't leave it all for your rest day. For if you're going to claim obedience to the Sabbath, you also have to know it's not your extra study day. It's supposed to be your day that's different than the other days. But a really good Sabbath could also be when you call home and say, Mom, the Father, you know the great I am? He called me to his table. And when he passed the plate to me, I realized there was my name. And he knows me. And Mom, you know everything about me, and I know you're kind of disappointed sometimes. Well, the Father, he knows everything about me. I can only imagine how much disappointment he feels. But you know what he said? I can redeem all of that. I can pay all of that. I can wash all of that. I can remove all of that. And when I pull you close and when we go deeper together, I will raise the level of your vision. You'll get to see higher and clearer than just your circumstances. I will be everything you need. So this morning, are you hungry? God says, and I am the living word for you. I'm the bread of life. Are you thirsting for something else? Something more? God says, I'm your living water. I can quench your thirst like no other. Are you guilty? Filled with some shame and some regret? I'm your sacrifice. I've already done it. So all you have to do is accept that I am your Redeemer. I'll pay your price to spring you free. Are you lonely? I am more than just companion to you. I am your everything. Are you afraid of death? I am your eternal life. I am all those things and more. Just check out my name. I am. There's a ... to it, and yet it's complete all by itself. I am calls you this morning and declares to you that you are loved. So if you mean that prayer that we sang this morning as you receive the elements, and communion service, why don't you come on forward and get ready? Worship team, why don't you get in place too? Because when you receive these elements this morning, it seems wise for you to go ahead and pray that prayer. You can pull me closer. You can take me deeper, Lord. If there's some things you have to get right between you and God, now's the time. You know what we do at our family table? Sometimes we have to get our relationship right again. And it's highly appropriate for you to, right now, just simply say, Lord, I know between you and I things aren't right, but I want to get them right. I want to take a step in your direction and ask, would you forgive me? Would you rearrange my thoughts? And watch as the Lord starts to work. The invitation, you can pull me closer and take me deeper. You know what he'll do? He'll do just that if you let him. So let him. As you receive the elements, and ushers, go ahead, start passing them out. As you receive the elements, just hold them for a little bit. Hold them together, and then at the end, we'll take them all together in celebration of the great I am. But before you take them, just allow God to speak to your heart, pull you closer, take you deeper. Maybe some of you will just want to come to the altar or stand in awe and say, how can this be that this great I am knows my name, put a name tag at his table for me? How can this be? I'm so honored. Give him your praise, give him your worship. For those of you who need forgiveness, go get it. Hold the elements and we'll take them together. Let's worship.